I'm here to introduce Sundari Mitra, who is a member of Diaspora. Welcome, Sundari. She is a co-founder and CEO of Asato.ai, and she is going to lead a discussion on AI teammates. So, Sundari, over to you.
First of all, Diaspora, MR, thank you for having us here. It's been an absolutely delightful morning, and I think the afternoon promises to be equally good. Could I please have my panelists join me over here? I see Aiswarya, I see Ahmed, and there's Arjun. So as they're coming here, so what did we hear about since morning? We hear that AI is omnipresent. We also got scared in the previous panel, but I loved the analogy of electricity. It's been reinvented. Each one of us have to take it, make it our own, and do something with it. And this delightful panel that I have here is going to talk to us about what they have done with AI, with Gen AI, and called it a teammate. Someone who's going to supercharge every human. So I'll just start with maybe Aiswarya, you're right here. So could you tell me a little bit about what your company does, please?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Aiswarya, thanks for having me. I'm the founder of a startup called Intelligence.ai, where we're working on building what we think is artificial engineering intelligence. So in the panel that we saw right before this, we talked a lot about how there's a lot of platforms trying to solve this autocomplete problem of how can we spit out code faster. But what we realized is what makes, if you think about the most brilliant developer that you've met, that's not necessarily the person who just can chug out code the fastest. It's someone who actually understands the system, knows how different people on the team are working, what design decisions should be made, can actually review other people and give like that entire insights to the org, right? So we started off by thinking out how can we build this type of intelligence for an engineering team and actually use that to turbocharge productivity. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. We're building a teammate that can give engineers the entire knowledge of their context base so that they can write code in the most efficient way.
Okay, moving to Ahmed.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I'll introduce myself. I am leading engineering at Devrev. Devrev is a startup that is, whether you're a CCO, CIO, or a CTO, we believe in the next several years, with the aid of AI, machine intelligence, and design, we believe that all of you and your teams will look to get closer and closer to customers and product. And we believe that's the best way to create a category-defining product that people will love, and your customers will love, and that's what we focus on.
Arjun, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm Arjun. I am the co-founder and CEO of Docket. At Docket, we are building an AI sales engineering teammate. So when salespeople are trying to sell complex products to the buyers ask a lot of questions. They typically need the help of a sales engineer to answer those questions or fill out the RFPs or security questionnaires. That's sales engineers are pretty expensive for companies. So we are giving an AI sales engineering teammate for every account executive out there to solve complex sales.
Wonderful. So with that introduction, I think I'm going to kind of, pick up the pace a little bit over here and ask them some trick questions. We had a prep call, but listening to all the conversations today feels like we should do a little bit more than that. So my first question, I think we had this discussion as well. Will your teammates actually replace the humans, right? So you're building teammates, people are going to embrace them. And then the next question that follows up with that is, with that in mind, how do you win customers? Right, so maybe I'm going to just start with you, Arjun.
Sure, this is being recorded. So, there is the diplomatic answer where I can say that, it's not going to replace anybody forever. It is always going to augment people, all of that. But the truth is every technology has always displaced people. Right? Take the ATM, take any technology out there. So AI is certainly going to displace some people. Does not mean that it's going to make everybody jobless. Mm-hmm. It just means that it'll displace people. The same technology that is displacing people will also augment these people to go serve at a higher value in the value chain in an enterprise or in anything that they are doing. So the way I think about it is we are building a sales engineer. If you go to an enterprise today, depending on the complexity of what they are selling, the ratio of an account executive to an SE, sales engineer, is somewhere between 1:1, like a ServiceNow, to like 1:30 at a super transactional company. But most companies have 1:4, 1:6, something like that. So if it is let's say 1:4, for every 4 account executives that the companies are hiring, you need a sales engineer. A sales engineer comes for 200K, 250K, no commissions, difficult to find, difficult to retain. You know, it's very difficult to kind of go with that. If you keep going at 1:4, and it's actually increasing, right? 1:7 is becoming 1:6, it is becoming 1:5. So enterprises have to buck this trend. If you look at all of the public SaaS companies today, the amount of GTM dollars that are going, the efficiency, HubSpot is getting what their CAC payback period is like 52 months or something like that. You cannot operate companies at that, right? So you have to bring in efficiency. The only way to bring in efficiency is by taking AI into all of your things that you're doing and then reducing the enablement that you are getting, right? Because AI is enabling. What that means is these people will go do other things, not necessarily the mundane task of filling out a security questionnaire that they have filled 200 times before.
Wonderful, thank you. Ahmed, if I may ask you a question.
Can I add to that question as well?
Sure, my question was leading on to it, but go ahead.
Absolutely.
Please.
I'll just say, look, at Devrev, from our count, there's about 40 million developers in the world right now. We think that over the next couple of years, over the next 5 to 10 years, we'd like to see that number go north of 100 million. That's something that we think, with the help of AI, we're going to be able to do. And so I could expound on that, but maybe I'll take your question.
Yeah, so the question is kind of leading into exactly what you said.
Yep.
You had sort of said that, you know, if people, humans, can get closer to working on what is their essential skill, what they bring to market, rather than the fluff work that surrounds, it makes us more productive, it makes us do more. So yes, on one hand, it feels like AI is going to help us, quote unquote, displace people, but yet it's going to do some more. Could you comment on that, please?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I think the words that we like to use at Devrev, deep work. I think what we find, I'll take the ATM example, as ATMs started to come in and tellers started to do less teller work, they started to do more financial analyst, financial advisor work. They started to sell you on home loans and things of that nature. They started to really elevate what industries and what features and capabilities banks could offer you. So we'll see similar parallels in many industries. But the real question is, what does deep work look like in all of these business functions? And I think when we start to really think about that, we understand that AI is going to help us really get closer to that. And you know, our thesis happens to be that people are going to want to get closer to product and customer because that's where the revenue comes from. I'll tell you from our personal experience, we're running a team where approximately 250 engineers are pitching in on the code. On a daily basis, 3 out of every 4 engineers in our company is actually using a Copilot, whether it's Cursor or GitHub Copilot. We're using these technologies. 3 out of 4 engineers are using them daily. And so they're not being displaced, but their productivity is going up. They're able to write tests more readily. They're able to actually build out the boilerplate template code much more rigorously. And there's a fair bit of understanding when the commonality of the tool chain starts to expand. There's more relatability between engineers. They're able to share context, and they're able to build better and faster. So we see a lot of opportunities here through the tool set getting better, and also just people being able to up-level themselves into deeper work for us to innovate faster and hopefully build better products and bring them to market.
Wonderful, thank you very much. This actually dovetails exactly into what Aiswarya's company does. We have talked about how individual performance kind of improves. You had some very interesting comments to me earlier about how it's not about individuals. It's how collectively the knowledge improves. Could you expand on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. So what he just alluded to is that, as you can see, a lot of these companies, people think that to make an engineering team faster is just making each engineer write more code. But that's not necessarily the case. What we've heard, and one of the problems we've focused a lot on at Intelligence, is actually how to get engineers up to speed at a large company faster, right? That is not just, can I write code? Any engineer can write code kind of on their own project, on a hobby project, 0 to 1, come up with a new iPhone app or something, which is one of the things that a lot of these co-pilots do really well. But if you try to now put that into the context of a large engineering org, where it needs to know how this system was built, it needs to understand from your Slack comments, from your docs, figure out, oh, this PR was already executed, you don't need to implement this feature again. How can we actually get the entire team on that same page instead of having all these communications between people to ensure that the team is functioning as a unit, right? So that's a large thing that I think a lot of people in this engineering space are missing right now, is that engineers don't work in silos, and I think the more and more that we're unable to bridge those silos across teams, that we're actually not overall enhancing the productivity of the engineering team. And this extends beyond ICs to also like management functions, right? So we see a lot of times that engineering tech leads, a lot of what they need to do is understand how their entire team is performing, and that becomes like a matter of just asking someone else what was the productivity of this org. But we can actually provide those insights directly to them by giving an awareness of the entire PR and issue stack.
Can I add on?
Please do.
So prior to my Docket company, I was the chief data officer at ZoomInfo, which is not a big company, 1.2 billion in revenues, 3,500 people. We ran a span of control analysis across the company, and what we found is there were several managers, mid-level managers in the company who had like 2 reports or like 3 reports. A span of control today is like what, typically 7 people. So the whole effort was to kind of flatten out the organization, right? Like Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook kind of let go of a bunch of mid-level people to flatten out the organization. To Aiswarya's earlier point, if AI starts adding value to the managers, and if the managers can increase their span of control from 7 to 14, just because now AI is augmenting a lot of the things that they are doing the performance review, helping them manage things, giving more observability to what is happening, automatically doing the communication, those kinds of things, the span of control becomes 14, the whole hierarchy comes to half of what it is today. Flattening the organization is the best way for information passing up and down, which increases the efficiency, which increases the overall efficiency of the companies, right? So a great point that, it's not just individuals, but it's also for manager augmentation.
If I may expound on that, Arjun and Aiswarya are bringing up some really, really great points. Obviously, we're all in the industry of technology, and we are all paying really close attention to span of control. And so at Devrev as well, we have very, very few managers for a company that has an engineering count of about 240 people. And the way we're actually using our technology to actually manage that is part of the value proposition. And as we talk about developer productivity, obviously there's new frameworks like Space. Prior to that, there was Dora. And what we're seeing is as rapid development and evolution is happening in terms of how we, in a research-backed way, understand what it truly means to have productivity in a developer team, what we're finding is that many of the ways that we're going to have to instrument our software and instrument our tool set to be able to evaluate properly under this new paradigm, AI can be of tremendous help, because not only can it actually lay out search, discovery, clustering, prioritization, and workflows, it can actually bring into it a sense-making mechanism thanks to the large language models. And that sense-making mechanism has been sort of the missing ingredient. And when you bring that in, it actually helps you start to evaluate things and start to create scoring metrics that are deeply sophisticated compared to what we saw 2-3 years ago.
Absolutely. Now, one question, and probably I'll have just one of you maybe answer this one before I ask my next question, and then I'll open it up to the audiences. My question is, we are all kind of different SaaS companies. We are all using AI. It's moving at a pace that's much faster than we ever imagined. We have heard that we need to be agile, we need to pivot. But there is one behemoth that is sitting there, that's OpenAI. The valuation they get is astronomical. Why? Because there is a belief that they're going to gobble up all the other SaaS companies that exist. Or keep your comments brief, and all 3 of you can answer it. how do we envision our companies not getting gobbled up by the behemoth? Maybe again I start with Aiswarya.
Yeah, I'll start with this. I think there's a few different things. One is actually the user experience. So we are in a space with, as you said, like code completion was one of the first things that when Copilot came out, everyone was like, wow, LLMs can now be used for code, right? But what we realized is in just tackling this one use case, right, how can we get an engineer up to speed on an entire company's knowledge base, right? That usually takes about 6 months to a year right now. Is OpenAI innovating on that experience? Can we actually take LLMs to take all that information, create a digestible guide, help you visualize it, help you understand it, and tell you which tickets to get started on? That's the experience that currently a person or a tech lead or a mentor is doing for you. And I think it's getting that experience right, working with engineers, seeing how they're able to interact with it, explore, and get the value that they're getting out of it. That's what we've really focused on. And similar on the manager side, right? What are the questions they want answered about their team? How can we provide that in a digestible way for them? That actually, I think, adds more value than just the LLM, is building the experience that the customers want to solve their pain point.
So if I could summarize, what you're saying is that you're making it specific for this use case and you're honing in depth instead of breadth, correct?
Yes, and I think
Okay.
it's also the user experience flow. Like, what
That's
do you
correct.
want that
Okay.
will actually get you through the problem?
All right, Ahmed?
Yeah, thank you. I'll mention 2 points that I think are incredibly important here. First thing is, for those of you who know Ethan Malik, he's one of the preeminent voices right now in artificial intelligence. He has a great Substack. You can go ahead and read it. One of them is, one article is the state of play of AI. The state of play of AI, he talks about how what we're seeing today is what we call Gen 2 models. And prior to this, where we really got excited was the Gen 1 model. So right now we're on Gen 2 models. Gen 2 models take about $1 billion to train. When we start to look at Gen 3 models, it's going to go up in order of magnitude. By the time we get to Gen 4 models, which is slated to be around 2026, 2027, we're talking about models that are going to take $100 billion to train. And these are just a couple of years away. So when you start to think about that, it starts to make sense why some of these companies that are building these foundational models would have the valuations that they have. So that's one observation that I think we should all understand. It may not necessarily mean that they're going to gobble everything up. It just means that they have to have the means to be able to train the models that are going to serve many, many use cases. That's number one. Number two, what I would say is, I think in order to survive this without becoming sort of just me too, or just to be another feature, is to really understand the meta observation here. The meta observation, at least from our vantage point at our company, at Devrev, is that there's a new modality that's emerging here. And if we sort of focus on that new modality is going to be conversational in nature. And there's going to be a lot of surfaces that were very niche services. So if you were surfaces, so for example, if you were using a work management product like a Jira, if you were using a traditional CRM like a HubSpot, or if you were using an intercom, for example, if you were using these products, there were some niche surfaces that you got used to, but the differences are going to become minuscule and minute, and they're going to become irrelevant in this new modality because we're going to start to expect things to be more miniaturized. We're going to start to expect things to be more conversational in nature, and we're going to be able to drive a lot more behavior through workflows that we can dictate in a completely different way, a new modality. So if we really start to think about that with our businesses and our companies and really focus on that, I think we're going to have something that really thrives in the next decade.
Thank you, Arjun.
The good thing is when they raised this recent round, they also told the investors not to invest in 5 other companies, right? So basically, OpenAI told that those are the 5 companies that they are going to go after. One is Google. Google, they didn't tell about, but they said don't invest in Perplexity, which is the B2C side of search. They said don't invest in Glean, which is the enterprise side of Google search. And there are 3 more companies. I forgot the names. So basically, we know that's where they are going. And logically also, it kind of makes sense. How not to be a roadkill with OpenAI? I think the way to think about it is just like Salesforce is a wrapper on top of a database, we are all building AI or teammates, anything that you call, on top of the underlying AI service that we are receiving. But if you build the wrapper that is very thin, then you are a roadkill. If the wrapper is very thick, then you are not a roadkill. What is that wrapper? That is the domain knowledge, right? If I am building something in sales, then the wrapper has to be super deep. You bring so much domain expertise into that thing that you are building, which translates into workflows that translates into specific use cases, configurations, access controls. It manifests into different ways, right? So that's how you don't end up being a roadkill.
Very well said. Now for my last question, let's fast forward. Let's fast forward a few years. Do you believe that your teammate will actually take over the human?
Define takeover.
As in, the human has become the teammate, and your teammate is making all the main decisions.
I think it's unlikely. I think it's unlikely. And again, it all boils down to whether we all believe in AGI and ASI. You know, are we going to hit artificial superintelligence in 2027 or 2028? I think if we get there, then the problem statement and the way in which we are all dealing with the world will significantly change.
It'll have to be reimagined again.
Yeah,
a good
exactly.
answer.
So,
either one of you want to comment on that?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take it. I think to that question, right? I think there's always this kind of barrier as to like right now we assume human will do this, the AI will do that. I think that barrier is going to continuously be changing and fluctuating, right? Like right now, I think people are like, okay, I'm fine with getting AI to generate like 2 or 3 more lines of what I'm doing. Do I actually trust it to write this entire pull request? Do I trust it to figure out how to structure this project? No. But that line, as people add more human AI collaboration, I think will be more and more fluid as time goes on, right? Whereas I can say, these are the parameters I need this to hit, non-negotiable. You can make these decisions, come back and tell me, right? So we're working on, yeah, I think that change will definitely continue to evolve, where you work together and what decisions one makes, just kind of like working with someone else on your team.
Thank you.
I'll just mention very briefly, prior to these 3 years at Devrev, I spent almost 13 years at Apple. And at Apple, you know, one of the most important elements of good product was design. And so, you know, even here at Devrev, what we talk about is combining machine intelligence and design. And I think design is what helps you think. It helps users understand what they can get from a product. And I think ultimately, if we bring a strong voice of design into however we design the next generation products, which are going to be supercharged with AI, we'll probably create the right behaviors. But of course, design is going to play a huge role here.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to open it up. I think we may have time for like a few questions. All right, Raji, yes.
Thanks, Sundari, for coordinating this and very fascinating discussions. Just can you, any one of you comment, or more than one of you comment on what's the implication of global workforce, cross-border workforce, given these AI teammates? Just as a curiosity question, I don't have any agenda.
I can start? Yeah? All right, so from our perspective, right, what we're thinking is a few things, right? If you have an AI teammate, what we're realizing is you less and less have to be actually going and bothering your real teammates, like your human teammates. Because like for a lot of questions, right, instead of me going and pinging person from team X, explain this to me, or me pinging the senior staff person, go help me with this. We've seen that for any real change to happen, like PRs or just commits at an engineering team, there's like about 5 or 6 different human team touch points, right? But with AI teammates, can a lot of this information just be captured by the AI representative for that team that knows all the changes that's been going on? So I think this expands beyond borders, right? We have a distributed team. We're seeing that less and less people have someone who's just sitting next to them that they can ask questions to. So instead of like kind of having to wait for this person to come back online, can we get the AI version of this to help out with a lot of the like human touch points that you're otherwise blocked on, and that actually cause a lot of friction on these teams? So yeah, I think it can help in that way.
A great answer, and if I had to add my 2 bits to it, to me, AI teammates are data-based teammates. So they actually bridge the cultural divide, right? Because we are looking at data, analyzing it, then addressing it. So essentially, to me, a teammate is bridging the silos between humans. And that's what it's about. Yeah.
I'll mention, you know, it's good to practice what you preach, I guess. So we should mention that Devrev is a company. It's a startup that's actually spanning 5 continents. And we've been spanning multiple continents from the very beginning. Even within India, we have 3 sites. So we have Chennai, we have Bangalore, we have Mumbai. And one of the things that we try to do is figure out how AI and design help us go from, let's just say, a 4-hour overlap between, let's say, the United States and in India, and from a time zone perspective, to an 8-hour overlap, to a 10-hour overlap. How does that happen? So just, we're not basically compressing the time dimension, but what does that mean practically speaking? How does AI help us create that type of overlap? And if you start to think about that and sort of work your way back to say, what are the features and capabilities of a product that allows that to be the reality, and you start to understand what the new paradigm could look like. So obviously with the help of machine intelligence, powerful search analytics workflows, plus good design, I think we have to figure that out. So we believe strongly that this is the future, and how does that actually happen in a way that's going to help us be essentialists and allow us to do our best work is really what we're going after.
Hello.
There's a question there.
Quick question. Any of you could answer. So we heard a lot about good insights on the enterprise side of AI teammates. Can any of you comment more on the non-enterprise side? I mean, AI teammates for family, child, pet, home, whatever that is, and also any interesting kind of companies that you've seen addressing it? Or do you guys see it as the workflows and domain is not so specific and deep that something like an OpenAI will actually consume or capture that market?
So I think Arjun.
Yeah, I can start. I mean, there are many, yes, we are a little too enterprise heavy guys over here, but there are fascinating companies that are coming up on the B2C side as well. I just spoke with a founder who is building like a longevity teammate, kind of like, like if I'm a human, I want to take care of my health, but I don't really do it. So if the only ask is I have to click one picture on my Meta glasses, yeah, I can probably do that, right? And then it keeps taking, and you're like, hey, you are behind. You had more calories in the morning, less calories now, That's one. You are probably already seeing Instagram ads on a lot of these, hey, take care of your kids, all of that, using the virtual assistant for your family. Company name is Johanna or something like that. Then there is a B2B version called Athena for that, and Athena is already using AI significantly. Just a matter of time before Johanna starts using AI. So they take care of your individual task, right? Booking of your trip or hotel or all of that. So there are fascinating, almost all the B2C companies have a co-pilot that is starting to assist in the regular things that we do as humans. I think it's going to be fascinating there as well. Everybody, like Tesla rolled out the entire robot also, that's where the world has to go, right? The cost of compute has to come down, cost of energy has to come down. That will make way to robotics, and that robotics will make its way to our homes. Amazon is working on Astro. So agents is not just software agents, it's also going to get into robotics pretty quickly.
And I mean, true to what you said, I mean, there is a company that, longevity company, my husband has one, but more than that, there is a mental health startup that we are a part of. And it's tremendous actually what they are able to do for their clients, right? So I think the applications are diverse, and especially something like mental health, which people are shy to talk about. This is really bringing out some excellent results from what I see.
Yeah. I think from what a lot of people, at least in this part of the world, believe, we talk about the iPhone or mobile phones in general, which have been sold at the scale of billions. And generally people say, well, are we going to see a product that is sold in the billions? And I think the general, feeling is that human-assisted robots or robots that people have as personal assistants are going to be sold in billions, and most people in the middle class and above are going to have the disposable income to afford these. And I think this is seen as the next great opportunity from a consumer electronics perspective.
Absolutely. Maybe we have time for one more question.
So how are you handling the ethical concerns around building these teammates? So, there's obviously, going back to your question, would your teammate become more intelligent than human, and would that take over the world, right? And one of the biggest challenges is how do you kind of bake in the ethical aspects into any teammates you're building? Can you give us a couple of examples where you had to kind of put that lens on? And take that into consideration in building a teammate?
Which one of you want to take it, or I could?
I think from just the point that I mentioned earlier with regards to like drawing the boundary line between, I think everything, like you've seen agents now that can actually go out and purchase things for you, right? Like book a flight or do other things. I think it's very much a question of where you do that like set of checks, right? So a lot of things that we do, before we actually take an action, we will ask the engineer for verification. Like we do pull request reviews, we allow you to like actually directly commit the code that we suggest into your PR. But those things are like kind of checked by the person, right? So I think before you see like fully autonomous things, there'll be a lot of kind of this check and balance thing between the human and the agent where it will first ask you, hey, do you approve? Is this in line with what you want me to do? Can I give you the information for you to make the decision? Or is this at the point where these types of tasks, I can do it and you just sign off, right? So I think there'll probably be like, at least for the near future, a realm where everything is, the more critical things are gonna be approval based so that it's really helping you take care of what you don't want to do, but making sure that you still have sign off.
So if I may, I will compare this to the automotive trend that has happened. We started off first, everything manual, then cruise control started, then hands off, then eyes off, then autonomous, then driverless. To me, the AI progression is something similar. We are progressing slowly with the right ethical rules, filters, guardrails, as we go from one generation of AI to the next, right? I don't think we are there at the fully autonomous. We're probably still maybe at the kind of sort of, should we take our eyes off of it yet or not? Our cybersecurity panel told us we just can't, not yet. But I think we are somewhere there and we are going to get to this point, and that is when AGI comes in. That's when I think you get to the right state, right? Sorry, Ahmed, I spoke over you perhaps?
Yeah, I was just going to provide a reference. So if you look at the Bear Lab, so Berkeley AI Research Lab, it's one of the prominent research facilities right now. They've had people who have been looking at this exact problem. So if you're looking for a reference to kind of look into this, from the technology perspective, trying to bring the same level of protocol that we've brought to other systems, whether it's the web or other RFCs that we've built in the past. So effectively bringing in this concept of guardrails formally, and then also bringing in things like blast radius formally into the protocols when you build skills and agents. So this is something that's being sort of designed right now. And I think it's going to take several years, and then it's going to have to be complemented with law and everything else, right? So from an ethics perspective. So it's an interesting space, and I would just encourage you to maybe look at that research lab and others in this proximity that are doing some very interesting work in that space.
Okay, so I think we are out of time. I know there were a few questions, hands that were raised. We'll be around, ask us questions. And thank you very, very much. Thank you. You're an awesome panel. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Sundari.